Before we begin, don't forget to subscribe, like, and share to keep making horror stories. Thank you very much. Let's start the story. The sun dipped behind the forested hills, casting long shadows over the still surface of Blood Lake. The name alone was enough to send shivers down the spine of anyone who dared utter it after dark. Legends spoke of a terrible curse, a hidden malevolence lurking beneath the crimson waters, waiting to claim its next victim. Marcy, a young journalist with a penchant for unraveling local myths, had arrived in the small town of Ravenswood earlier that day. The locals had been reticent to talk about the lake, their eyes darkening with fear at the mere mention of it. Determined, she made her way to the edge of the lake, hoping to uncover the truth behind the chilling tales. As the last rays of sunlight disappeared, Marcy set up her camera and audio recorder. The forest around her grew eerily silent, as if even the nocturnal creatures were wary of the lake's malevolent aura. She took a deep breath and began her interview with the darkness. "Legend has it," she narrated, "that Blood Lake was once a serene and beautiful place, known as Crystal Lake. But that all changed a century ago, when a series of gruesome events transformed it into the sinister entity it is today." The wind picked up, rustling the leaves and sending a chill down Marcy's spine. She glanced around nervously but continued. It was said that in 1923, a man named Jonathan Hargrove moved into the town with his family. Hargrove was a reclusive figure, shunned by the townsfolk for reasons that remain unclear. Rumors swirled about his involvement in dark rituals and forbidden practices. One stormy night, the entire Hargrove family disappeared without a trace. Marcy paused, her eyes scanning the dark expanse of the lake. The water, almost black in the fading light, seemed to pulse with a life of its own. The townspeople searched for days but found nothing. Weeks later, blood started to seep from the lake, turning its clear waters a deep red. Panic spread through Ravenswood, and soon the lake became known as Blood Lake. A twig snapped behind her, and Marcy whipped around, her heart pounding. But there was nothing there, only the dense, impenetrable forest. She shook off her fear and continued. Over the years, anyone who ventured too close to the lake after sunset either disappeared or met a gruesome end. Their bodies were found drained of blood, as if the lake itself had feasted on them. The locals believed that Jonathan Hargrove's spirit had cursed the lake, binding it with a hunger for blood to satiate his own dark desires. Marcy's flashlight flickered, casting unsettling shadows that danced around her. She tightened her grip on it, her voice trembling slightly. Some say Hargrove's family never truly left. Their spirits are trapped here, forced to serve the malevolent entity that now inhabits the lake. On certain nights, if you listen closely, you can hear their anguished cries echoing through the forest. Suddenly, the temperature plummeted, and Marcy's breath came out in frosty puffs. She glanced around, her fear mounting. The forest seemed to close in on her, the darkness growing thicker and more oppressive. A low, guttural moan rose from the lake, sending a wave of terror crashing over Marcy. She fumbled with her camera, trying to capture the sound, but her fingers felt numb and uncooperative. The moan grew louder, more insistent, and she realized with a jolt that it wasn't just one voice. It was many, a cacophony of tortured souls crying out in unison. She stumbled backward, her flashlight beam skittering across the water's surface. For a brief moment, she thought she saw a figure standing at the edge of the lake, its eyes glowing with an unnatural red light. But when she blinked, it was gone. Marcy's rational mind struggled to take control. This was just a story, a series of coincidences, tricks of the light. But the fear gnawing at her gut told her otherwise. She took a deep breath and continued, her voice barely a whisper. There are those who believe that the only way to break the curse is to find Hargrove's remains and lay them to rest. But no one has ever dared to search for them, fearing the wrath of the lake. As if in response to her words, the lake began to churn, its surface roiling violently. Marcy's flashlight flickered and died, plunging her into darkness. She could feel the malevolent presence closing in around her, suffocating her with its icy grip. Desperation took hold. She fumbled for her matches, striking one to illuminate her immediate surroundings. The flickering flame revealed a path leading deeper into the forest. Driven by an inexplicable urge, she followed it, the lake's monstrous roars echoing behind her. The path wound through the trees, twisting and turning as if trying to disorient her. But Marcy pressed on, driven by a need to uncover the truth. After what felt like an eternity, She stumbled upon a clearing. In the center stood an old, crumbling mausoleum, overgrown with vines and moss. Her heart pounded as she approached, the sense of malevolence growing stronger with each step. The air around the mausoleum was thick with an unnatural fog, and the temperature dropped even further. Marcy hesitated, her fear almost overwhelming her, but she knew she couldn't turn back now. She pushed open the heavy door, its hinges groaning in protest. Inside, the air was musty and stale, and the darkness seemed to press in from all sides. Marcy lit another match, revealing a stone sarcophagus in the center of the room. Her hands trembled as she pried off the lid, revealing a skeletal figure draped in tattered robes. Jonathan Hargrove. The air grew thick with the stench of decay, and Marcy fought the urge to gag. Suddenly the room was filled with a deafening roar, and the temperature plummeted further. The spirit of Jonathan Hargrove rose from the sarcophagus, his eyes burning with an unholy fire. Marcy's blood ran cold as he fixed his gaze on her, his mouth twisting into a malevolent grin. "You dare disturb my rest!" he hissed, his voice echoing with the screams of the damned. "You will pay for your insolence!" Marcy's survival instincts kicked in. She grabbed the vial of holy water she had brought with her and hurled it at the spirit. The liquid sizzled and burned, and Hargrove's spirit recoiled with a howl of rage and pain. Taking advantage of the distraction, Marcy grabbed a handful of salt and sprinkled it around the sarcophagus, forming a protective barrier. She chanted the incantation she had found in an ancient text, her voice growing stronger with each word. The spirit writhed and twisted, its form flickering like a dying flame. With one final ear-splitting scream, it vanished, leaving behind an eerie silence. Marcy collapsed to the ground, her body shaking with exhaustion and fear. She had done it. She had broken the curse. As she stumbled out of the mausoleum, the first rays of dawn were breaking over the horizon. The lake was still, its surface reflecting the golden light. The air felt lighter, the oppressive malevolence gone. Marcy made her way back to the town, her steps unsteady, but her heart filled with a sense of triumph. She had faced the darkness and emerged victorious. The legend of Blood Lake would live on, but now it would be a story of redemption, a testament to the power of courage and determination. And as the sun rose over Ravenswood, the townspeople emerged from their homes, their faces filled with hope for the first time in a century. The curse had been lifted, and Blood Lake was once again at peace. But in the depths of the forest where shadows still lingered, a faint, malevolent whisper echoed through the trees. For the darkness never truly dies. It merely waits, biding its time, ready to rise again when the moment is right.